But there is something to journaling that is extremely important. It's a way of learning where you absorb yourself, let's say in the topic of sketching a leaf or whatever, and I might do a little study beforehand or I'll study that leaf afterwards, but I'm putting my mind and my full attention span and my focus into that outdoor observation. And then I'm actually, it's a mechanism of where you're going through your curiosity, your thought, and your writing, and you're documenting it down. From there I learn forever. Everything that I've documented in that, that's how it's a learning process. I also like sketching. I did a lot of photography. I mean, I started photographing when I was 8. And I was always fascinated with the still cameras. And that's all there was back then. But the sketching was also important to me. And what was important in the sketching was the use of colored pencils, which is always, I think, great with all kids. Kids are fascinated with color. And so I would sketch my surroundings, whether it be the stars, mapping the stars or the weather or the plants I was observing. Here's a harebell. The harebell is a beautiful flower that blooms in the June season in Ely. And you know, I would measure it. I mean, of course, I'm reading in other books, and once I sketch it, I would go back and then study it. But this intimate time that I spent with this flower, I learned forever. I know the harebell forever, and I know it. I can remember the facts, but I know it intuitively. So the fact of really concentrating, drawing the lines, and trying to get the shading right is the learning experience. It's also extremely important, I think, for young kids to write journals and to have something that they can look back years later at who they are. I did a lot of work always in the constellations. For example, as a kid who had problems with grammar and spelling, I knew the Arabic names for stars because I was interested in them. That was my fascination. I knew each star. The Greek alphabet, I knew the Greek alphabet. I knew the mythologies, everything, the symbolisms behind each star, each constellation, and how each constellation, the mythologies blended in with each other. And I wasn't an A student, but I had this curiosity, and the curiosity broke through the barriers. It's really breaking through those straight barriers into something that is, and that's where the real learning is. And I'll take quotes out of a book, and I'll write my own observations, but then a lot of what I used to do is I would go back to the books. We're all so scientific right now, but if you go before 1920s and before, especially in the turn of the century and so, the naturalists at that time described things in a more real way, a way that were picturesque and a way that touches you more than just the scientific. I mean, scientific is great, it'll give you information. But I would go back to the older books and read what the early naturalists would say about this, because it would touch me much deeper. It was more from the heart. And it also would allow me to be more acquainted with this and see it maybe in a different way. The idea here was always to see it in a different way, so I could get by my, oh, it's just a flower, but then to see it as a real being. And what I'm showing you here in these journals, you know, just typical, your average kid, you know. They're not all going to be drawing plants and stuff, but they have this curiosity, and nature is a magnetic attraction to a kid. And we need nature more now than we ever did, because our problem is we're nature deficit. We're too much in the computers and all the iPods and stuff, which is a great tool for learning and communicating, but we're losing ground with nature. And if we want to protect the natural environment, we have to have that in our bodies, in our sense, in our intuitive. We have to have the sense of place.